presented by Dano's Seasoning. Yum yum, get you some.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Sunbelt Syndicate. We've got a great show for you tonight. As always, my name is Dominick TJ, and with me is TJ Corman, not one, not two, but three-time FCS national champion, former App State wide receiver. And hey, TJ, you're going to get to touch that field there in about, 2 weeks?
Yeah, man. I'm excited. Excited to go. My son still doesn't know yet. So, and as we get closer, I keep saying things accidentally telling him. And he's like, "Daddy, what football game?" And I'm like, "Shh, the one we're going to watch on TV."
Oh yeah.
Trying to play it off. So, and he's like, he never forgets anything. Well, let me rephrase. He forgets things that we tell him that we want him to do that he just magically forgets. But anything that we tell him is a treat, he somehow remembers, even if it's 2 years later. So there's that.
Yeah, that seems to happen, right?
Yeah. Selective memory for our youngsters.
Well, before we get too far along, I do want to mention we are part of the Dogs Sports Media Network. They allow us to bring this to you, part of the College Football Dogs website as well. We'll have some write-ups and previews there you can check out every week. And down below, if you're watching us live right now, we are also sponsored by Dano's Seasoning, food's favorite flavor. Check out the promo code below, DOGGOS, to enter for your purchase to help spice up your food. And TJ, I think we talked about this a few weeks ago, but ended up having chicken pot pie again with a little Dano's sprinkled on top.
I love a nice little pot pie, man. Listen, a chicken pot pie is hard to beat. And then you add some Dano's on top, can't beat it. Can't beat it.
No.
So speaking of Dano's, so we talked about at Chipotle. I broke down and got me some of what you had. So tonight I made some baked chicken, broccoli, and rice. Well, I made on the baked chicken, I made a homemade style barbecue sauce. I just took some store-bought barbecue sauce and just added some different flavors to it. I added some honey, some hot sauce. Can't tell you everything that obviously went in it, but
secrets.
Right. But I also added some Dano's to it, to the hot sauce, or to the barbecue sauce.
Okay.
Painted it on, right? Put it back in the oven for about 10 or 15 minutes. Just let it caramelize and get nice with that skin. Oh my God. It was it was a winner. That's for sure.
Very nice. You go heavy on the seasoning, or is it kind of just a light thing until you taste for flavor? So
it depends. So if I'm using if I'm using some sort of sauce or a barbecue sauce or something like that, I'll a little bit lighter on the seasoning. My wife loves my barbecue sauce that I make, so most of the things that I cook have barbecue sauce on. She's literally down eating right now. I left dinner and came up, but if I'm not using any kind of sauce, then it's certainly heavy seasoning. And most of the seasons I use are low sodium, obviously, and a lot of Dano stuff is low sodium too. So cool, it works out.
Nice.
Yes, sir, Trev. You know what time it is. Thick thighs and large fries, baby.
Yep. First comment of the night goes to the food. Gotta love it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. So we usually start off the show, for those of you that are joining us a little bit newer, I know we've shared this in a couple of newer spots with TJ's breakdowns, and we are going to get to those. But first, we've got a little bit of breaking news to share with you that does directly deal with the Sunbelt. So, TJ, not long before we hit the air, we found out that James Madison, Jacksonville State, and Tarleton State all had submitted waivers, and now the NCAA has decided to decline all three waivers, which isn't the biggest surprise, but I thought maybe enough noise. College game day, as we know, is coming to Harrisonburg this weekend. I thought there might be enough pressure that they finally kind of cave to this and allow it to happen. They do not. Obviously, there's fans on both sides, right? There's a lot of people that are saying, we had to wait our turn. You got to wait yours. They're not going to change it in the middle of the season. But to that, a couple of us will say they already did change it, right? The Tez Walker situation, which was wrong in the first place, they did correct it, of course. So, that's a lot of the fans' perspective, and we'll dig into that even more in a little bit too. But from a former player's perspective, what do you think some of these guys are feeling? What did they maybe expect out of this decision? And what are they feeling, like anger, frustration, or did they kind of expect it and they're just going to go along their business as they always say on road trips, business trips? What do you think these kids are feeling?
It's deflating. As a former player, I obviously never went through any of this, but you got to think, man, all the work that they've done, the things that they've put in, the grind of what, and obviously, so it isn't new to them that they're not eligible, right? And they're not going to, it's one of those things where you still hold out like that little bit of hope that maybe they might change their mind. I mean, look at what we're doing. Look at the pressure. I mean, we're on game day, like you said. I mean, pressure's been ratcheted up as far as getting them, into a top 25, into a bowl game and into a conference playoff, or a conference championship. And it sucks for them because, as someone who's been a part of that grind all year, it is hard to have your work not show for anything, right? And to you and to the university, it obviously matters. But to the grand landscape of college football, this season will have meant nothing for them. And that's what sucks. And I guess for me, the biggest picture is that when you have these kinds of teams and teams as good as James Madison is, it's sort of almost like catching lightning in a bottle, right? You don't know if you'll ever be this good again because nothing next year is guaranteed, right? Okay. There's so many teams. I mean, look at the perfect example is Buffalo Bills back in the 90s. Went to 4 straight Super Bowls, never won one of them. We'll get back. Dan Marino's a perfect example of it. Perfect season, don't get to win a Super Bowl, and their biggest thing is, okay, we'll be back. You never, none of these opportunities are guaranteed. And so for me, that's the side of it that sucks the most, is because you can't guarantee that they'll be this good next year. There are going to be some guys that leave to go play pro ball. I can't remember exactly how many seniors they've got on their team. And for the most of it, the bulk of them will be back. But again, you don't know. Other teams are getting better. I mean, look at Old Dominion. They were way better than we projected them to be. So how much better are they going to be next year? So it was JMU's year this year. I feel terrible for them. But like you said, to start out with, and not to steal your thunder, but it is, the price you pay, in terms of moving up, and, fair is fair. So I see both sides of it, but I really wish they had let them get a shot.
Yeah, no, I haven't really been torn on it, right? I think we both kind of agreed that I would like to see them just abolish the rule. And we talked about
a silly rule.
Yeah, and it's not just James Madison. I mean, neither one of us are JMU fans.
No,
I'm not doing it so that James Madison gets to play. I'm doing it I'm arguing for it because I think it's the right thing to do. It doesn't make sense anymore. Plus the fact you bring in the other things that are actually a little different than some of the others, as in they played a full FBS season 2 years in a row. They didn't come in and do, an FCS season the first year and FBS second. So they've already kind of transitioned faster than anyone else. Not to mention, as we already have really though, the NIL and the transfer portal aspect to it. Now, the NIL not as strong when you're not talking about a Power 5 program.
Right, but it still exists. It still matters.
Yeah, there's still some advantages that NIL can provide to bring in some of those recruits or transfer players that, they might not have otherwise had. I don't, obviously hardly anybody knows the actual specifics behind those deals, behind closed doors, what those things equate to at the group of 5 level. For the most, I think a couple deals are probably known, but most of them are, small minor things like the Burger, who had the burger in Boone,
Right. Yeah.
Those things, those are cute and funny and all this stuff. But like, there's also ones that guys are getting paid more money. And so these things help alleviate some of the stresses and pains that the programs used to go through and don't have to kind of really go through it anymore. So, and also, as we cover the Sun Belt, it's a huge disadvantage that if James Madison were to go undefeated, they'd be a shoo-in for the New Year's Six. There's no
question.
Right. Now, if they lose a game, and there is a question, but if they don't lose a game, there's no question. They would be the New Year's Six representative and bring in quite literally millions of dollars the conference would not have otherwise had. Yeah. Do I want it to be James Madison? Of course not.
No, of course we wanted to be App State, but having some representation is better than none.
Exactly. If this is a chance You need to take advantage of it. And honestly, here's the other thing, right? As fans of other teams, whether it's App State, Troy, ODU, whoever it is, you also kind of want the notoriety, right? Yeah. Like Tulane got there last year. Now when Tulane goes on the road, there's probably quite a few more people who are going to go buy those tickets, not just to their conference games, but to their out-of-conference games. There's probably more people that want to see them on TV. So they're spreading brand awareness that you're going to be missing out on. Now, they could still make a bowl. We haven't really talked about that. They could still make a bowl even with this ruling because there may not be enough teams eligible. But the bottom line is they probably won't be in any kind of bowl they'd really want to be in.
Yeah, or care to be in. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And I think your point, though, is that if they get to one, that'll be awesome, right? Because it's still a reward for what they have done, the work they have put in, and the effort that they've put into the field. All that being said, before we get to your clip breakdown, hopefully we can put a lot of end to that talk when App State walks off the field with a W this Saturday.
Yeah, well, see, and that's the other thing too, right? Because both of us, should they win out, obviously shoe in, we want that to happen. However, there is a part of us that's, i.e. my banner behind me, that is, bleeds that black and gold and wants us to, sort of steal that thunder. And so you got to think too for App State, and we'll get into game breakdowns and what this all means. You got to think advantage App State here, right? Because morally, they're kind of torn down a little bit, right? It's like what else are we doing? What do we have to fight for, kind of thing? And who knows? They may come out swinging and just throw it in, NCAA's face. Yep. But then there's also a good chance where they say, to hell with this. Why? What am I fighting for? Kind of deal. So I can see both sides of it. But it's certainly something that App State, in my opinion, should. Well, I won't say should. Hopefully, will take advantage of.
Right. Yeah, and you got to. And to pile on further on that point, right? They're hosting the biggest event in college football this Saturday, as GameDay is going to be on their campus, literally running, as Pat McAfee said earlier this week, a literal commercial of their university. And of course, the pressure and the change of schedule that comes with all that. So yeah, not only do you deal with what the team's feeling and the issues involved with that, but now you've got all this other stuff you got coming on top of it. So we'll see. And we're going to talk about this a little bit later, even more once we get to the actual matchup. But we wanted to drop that breaking news because obviously it's probably one of the biggest topics in the Sun Belt right now. And now we'll get into just two games on national television last week. We grabbed just a clip from each because we did a little bit of this breaking news here. But let's get into TJ's breakdowns.
Set, go!
It's a nice little intro deal there. I like that.
Yeah.
There's some handsome guy wearing number 12 up there. I wonder who that is.
I know. Who let him borrow the jersey, right? I mean, come on. Who let that guy on the field? So the first clip is going to be from last Thursday's game with Louisiana hosting Southern Miss. And I guess going into this one, we both thought Louisiana would kind of take control here at home, right?
Yeah.
Well, not to be the case, and a goal line stand just before halftime is a big reason why. And TJ, obviously, as we talked about before we went live, we actually have a play before the play we're really going to be talking about, but it's a little interesting aspect, so I'll let it roll here and let you take over.
Yeah, he's trying to get a jump, right? He's trying to get a jump on the ball. I think too, he probably was looking at the right corner of his eye and saw that motion action and decided, yeah, let me get back there. But what leads into this play, I think, is the dominance of that left or that nose tackle. You and I talked about it before. He sits that center about 1.5 yards in the backfield. I mean, he won the line of scrimmage immediately. And so what you're looking at is the running back is trying to keep that play front side, right? He's going front side A gap with that play. But because the nose tackle gets such a drive on the center, it immediately clogs the hole up. So and you had to know that it was coming based on the initial jumping off sides, right? but he gets such a jump on that line of scrimmage, and it allows so the cutback doesn't happen. And so when the running back is able to cut back, it's too late. And 94 is in his backyard. So shout out to Roland. But the play was won at the line of scrimmage at that nose tackle position.
Yeah, because like I told you, before we're looking at it in the replay, it really makes it evident what the guy on the edge has done as well, which is obviously still a very successful play by him as well.
Right.
But as made evident by a former player who knows a whole lot more, you brought the attention to a guy who doesn't get enough attention at the nose tackle position, and made it known why that defensive end was so successful. And it's even more evident here in this look as we really see the running back get the ball first. But the reason my eyes go towards it more is because that's who you really see on the camera angle as he first comes in here. Again, obviously overpowering too, but mainly the ability to do that came from where you said it started with at the nose position.
Right. Yeah. Well, and so here's the other thing. If I'm playing running back, or if it's Kevin Richardson or Devin Moore or Noel or really any of the App State running backs, we're agile enough. We actually probably would have took a step back because, if you see it, he can actually bounce that to the outside and he could score a touchdown here. I don't think his eyes were up, or he just isn't as agile as a running back should be in that regard. But he has some options here. I think he thought they were going to win the line of scrimmage, and so just keep it front side, play it safe, and get that extra yard. But if you look down the line of scrimmage here, down block, everybody's blocking down. That running back can jump. He can jump cut outside, and he can get in the end zone if he really wanted to.
Yeah, we'll see that one more time.
I think he was thinking keep it front side. And he also didn't expect the nose tackle to sit the center in his lap. So, look at that. He's a yard in the backfield.
Yep.
So, excellent play by the defense. And like I said, specifically that nose tackle, and then great play finishing it up, 94 on the defensive end. So,
yeah, absolutely. And obviously a big reason why Southern Miss takes that game in overtime, and we'll talk about that here in just a minute. The next play comes from the opening kickoff with Georgia Southern went up to Marshall. And obviously we kind of know, or we at least probably think we know, what's about to happen here. But again, this is where TJ comes in and provides more than a lot of us are going to see ourselves, especially the ones who haven't played the game. Some of you that have played the game obviously might see some of this before someone like me. But, the obvious is that the kick's going to get returned. But the why is what TJ is going to talk about here. And I'll go ahead and back it up, TJ, so I can actually get you going in the right direction here. So go ahead.
Yeah, it's so again, what they're trying to do is trying to squeeze the field, right? He's trying to kick him into a corner and have the coverage play that corner. What ends up happening is right now your edge guy is 22 on the end, right? Well, he's actually going to fall back as a safety valve. So what happens now is number 2, who's running down here, is now replacing him as the edge guy. So really he has contained on any kind of kick return. Problem is he overruns the entire play. And so now you got no outside contain. And all it took is one missed tackle and a quick jump cut outside, which is what Louisiana's running back should have done. But anyway, quick jump cut outside, and he's off to the races because there's no outside contain. And number 2 is not able to get on his horse because not only did he run down the field, now he's having to run all the way back the other way. So basically running, 130, 140 yards in opposite directions. So, yes, it was a great return, but it was set up by very improper, lineman and assignment from Georgia Southern's kick team. And I'm sure when they're looking at film or when they looked at film after this play, that's the first thing their special team coach called out is what the hell is 2 doing? Because there's no reason for him to be running this. Listen, unless you're trying to be a hero and for 100% you can get back there and make that tackle right now. If he can make that tackle now, then you do it. But there's no reason for him to be that far past the play. There's just no reason for it. And I think he got relaxed on his morals. And I think he thought, because again, we talked about it, this kickoff works 99 out of 100 times. This was just the 100th time. And what happens is, again, like you said, when you're not in alignment and you're not playing your assignment type football, things like what happened with number 2, losing outside contain, that kind of stuff happens. So great return, but it was set up by poor leverage.
Yes. And I finally really see what you were talking about, where 2 takes his eyes off the ball here and actually thinks it's one of these other 2 guys here who have the ball. And that's really obvious here. And so you get it. He's looking now. He's looking. See, and now he doesn't know who has the ball.
Right.
And then he sees it, but it's too late, right? Like you said, he's too deep. Yeah. And then he trips over his own guy a little bit. So just all mistake and bad luck, really. I guess.
All sorts of wrong. Because again, like I said, 99 out of 100 times, somebody else other than 2 is probably going to make that tackle. He probably is never going to make that tackle anyway. It's not designed. The way they kick the ball off is not designed for him to actually make that tackle. He is there for safety valve, right? He's there to make sure he's out. I won't say safety valve, but certainly there to make sure there's outside containment on his edge. Chances are they probably won't make it outside because of how the kick is angled. And that's the purpose of having that kick, is because you basically shut off an entire side of the field. But it only works if everybody's running their lane and they're playing assignment football. And in this case, that was the downfall. Assignment football was not played here, and there was missed tackles.
One other thing that I want to point out that I've noticed is, like, your fastest guys on the field, and you probably noticed this, or maybe you know the science behind a little bit of it.
Right.
Watch the head bob as 2 tries to get back into position, and watch what I think it's also 2 for Marshall.
Yep.
It's just it's statue. It's completely still, focused, only forward motion, and then this two for Georgia Southern. He's like swimming here to try and catch up with a whole lot of upper body movement. His head's going back to side. Like, I always think someone's going to get beat when they're running like that. It's like they're putting effort into the wrong spot here to make up for whatever mistake was made early on. Well, something you know about? Or
so in normal circumstances, some people just run with their head, and that just happens, right? They have their head in it. But in this case, 2 was tired. He'd already run down the field 80 yards.
True.
Right? Now he's got to turn around, reverse course and chase a guy who's already at top speed by the time he hits the 40-yard line. He had no chance. I would have just stopped running, because there's no way. I'm already 80 yards into my run. Then I got to turn back and run another, or I got 60 yards into my run. Then I got to turn back and run another 80 yards in the opposite direction to chase him down. Not happening.
Yeah, that's true.
So he was tired, but he did it to himself.
Yeah. Speaking of tired, we were both up watching this game, Southern Miss versus Louisiana. Gosh, I almost said Georgia Southern because we were just talking about them. But Southern Miss versus Louisiana last Thursday. And, of course, they make the late night even later by going to overtime. And I don't think either one of us were awake to see it. But, Frank Gore stood out in this one. Probably the biggest reason that they won this game. Also with that goal line stand, that was a big part of it, right? They didn't allow them to get 7 before the half. Anything else really stick out to you in this 34-31 overtime victory for the Southern Miss Golden Eagles?
No, I mean, it was a surprise, right? I mean, I don't think either of us picked them to win. I think, or at least I know I didn't. I picked Louisiana the whole way, but again, we both said that if Southern Miss has a shot, it's because Frank Gore is going to go nuts. And 33 for 150 with 8 yards and 2 touchdowns, that's going nuts. So, I mean, he had a day, and they had a win. So, I mean, it's very simple.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep, absolutely right, Montreal. Goal line stands are winning plays 100% of the time, because it does 2 things, right? It boosts your morale, and then number 2, it gives the offense just a shot in the arm of confidence, knowing we don't have to fight from behind. Let's say even we do get the ball on the 1-yard line, at least they didn't score points. So we're not playing under pressure at this point. Even if we punt it back to them, at least we didn't give up points. So our goal line stands are key.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a little surprise down there on Cajun Field. Yeah. I know that, a lot of their fans are not happy with this loss. This is I feel like this is a building rivalry on the baseball diamond in the spring and the early summer. This was already kind of heating up, and the fact that this game went the way it did with the kind of questionable touchdown call for the Cajuns. I don't know if it was all that questionable. TJ, I don't know if you remember seeing that replay. It's kind of like the guy caught it, I think, really on his left arm and kind of was backing out, hits the pylon with his foot, but the ball itself never really kind of crossed the plane. Yeah. But it's also so far up that you're like, did it or did it not?
Well, and two, that universal line is kind of like tennis, right? That universal line, goal line, it goes around the earth. So I think that had a lot to do with it, with that play being called. I struggle to say whether it was or wasn't a touchdown. I don't know what the hell is anything anymore with these referees, man. Everything is so convoluted. I thought the sack by Florida State this past Saturday was a safety, and that ended up not being. I don't know what the hell the refs were looking at there, so I don't know what's what anymore. I don't know.
Okay, so one thing that I may have a little bit of insight with, and it's not for football, right? I officiated soccer, but as an official, one of the smartest things and the easiest things I ever heard from one of my assigners was you call what the game expects. So when you have a doubt of what you think should happen, read the field, read the players. Is someone going nuts because you didn't make that call? If you go back and watch the reaction by Southern Miss's defensive players, none of them were immediately saying he didn't get in. Right? A couple of them kind of like dropped their head down like we just got scored on. Mm-hmm. So to me, you probably could have called that a touchdown, then reviewed it, and if it clearly wasn't, then you can correct the mistake. And if it wasn't called a touchdown, then you say it wasn't, which I think actually is what happened. I do believe they did review that and still said it wasn't. But again, that's not necessarily saying they got the call wrong. I'm just saying sometimes you got to have that feel. And delay the whistle or the reaction just a slight second until you say, okay, he doesn't care. He doesn't care that this happened or whatever, right?
Right. Because he's going to know way more than you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Unless you're a fan, then you're like, blow the whistle.
Yeah, exactly. Then it doesn't matter. Then it doesn't matter. Throwing beers on the field and everything else. But speaking of throwing things, I think some of the Monarch fans wanted to throw some things after this game. And I really thought with what we had seen from ODU against James Madison, what they had done against App State, that they could come in here and compete easily with this Liberty team. Right. Obviously, I was wrong, but to me, Liberty's schedule and the way they beat people didn't blow me away. They were undefeated coming in, right?
I agree. I was right there with you.
This one, man, and it was quick too. If you have it in front of you,
they got up quick. They got up. It was
14. Yeah, 14 like that.
Fast, very fast points.
Yeah. So
and then 21 in the second quarter.
Yeah. Yeah, it was over in the first half, really.
Yeah, 100%.
From this one. So it's disappointing, and I know it's even more disappointing for the Monarch fans who, are in that area of Lynchburg or surrounding area where they really wanted that pride. Probably even if they had lost, they could have said, oh, yeah, but we kept it close with y'all, whatever. Obviously, with a 38-10 victory by Liberty. So ain't going to be the case. Speaking of another shellacking, this one we saw coming.
This wasn't even – and to be quite honest, I don't even know how much time we need to spend here. We knew what was going to happen. JMU did exactly whatever, which goes back to the original breaking news point. Even more reason for us to say, come on, man, stop playing with them. And let them play football. Obviously, we know at this point that it's not going to happen, but Jesus Christ, man, like what are we doing? Yeah. What are we doing?
Yeah, and to let people know, I actually thought this game would be closer. I didn't think it would be, relatively all that close. But I did make mention to somebody that, UConn's battle tested. They're not good, But
No.
they are battle to so like seeing some of these things from James Madison won't surprise them or shock them and
Right.
everything else. I thought it could be within, maybe as close as 2 scores. Not really feel that close when you're watching it kind of thing, but on the scoreboard it looks a little closer. Obviously I was wrong, but holy cow, like you said, not a whole lot of time to spend on that.
No, but I do want to point one thing out.
Yeah.
McLeod had a day. I mean, obviously it's easy to have a day against, I don't want to say easy. Football is not easy. Things have to go your way. But 400 and what was it? 30, 40, what was it? What do I have here? 457 yards. Yeah, and 4 touchdowns. And then Brown had 9 receptions for 202 and 2 tutties. That's insane, bro. Like that's that is nuts.
It is. I want to look back and many teams and many programs probably want to look back and say, what mold did you use to create the team that has been dominant for 2 straight seasons? So, and
that's the sad part again, going back to our initial point, is that we hope that they're going to, be good against everybody but App State. We hope that they'll be this good. They hope that they'll be this good, but there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee that this happens again. I mean, with the landscape the way it is, there's no guarantee they're going to have the same coach next year. Right? There's no guarantee that any of the teams in the conference are going to be the same that they were this year.
Well, that's true.
Because it's not just about you, right? It's about other teams are getting better as well. Right. And I mean, Joey Aguilar is still going to be there at App State next year. You know what I mean? So, we hope.
Right.
Knock on wood.
Again, like you said, though, you don't know. You don't know.
Right.
So
that's the uncertainty of college football right now.
Yeah. Which kind of makes it exciting, but it also is like the consistency is going to be just crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of consistency, App State was consistently scoring down there in Atlanta this past week, beating Georgia State 42-14. This one kind of mimics that James Madison UConn score because I don't know. It wasn't. I mean, Georgia State scored that 14 points. The second of the 14 points, the second touchdown, right near the end of the game is kind of garbage time type of thing. Yeah, this one was just about as bad as the game we just talked about. But besides running all over them on the scoreboard, TJ, did you see anything real specific from either side here that made you take note?
Defense. We didn't miss tackles, right? We played assignment football, and we brought our lunch pail to work. And we played, and listen, you and I, we both know this. We've been saying it all year. We can score with anybody. There's nobody that we're going to play that can outscore us. The problem is we got to get stops on defense. And we didn't just get stops. I mean, defense was everywhere. And so they balled out, and I don't have the defensive stats out in front of me, but I do know Joey Aguilar. He didn't have a huge, crazy day, 255, 3 touchdowns, and two of which in the red zone. So that, big, cashing in, those things matter when you're talking about moving the needle, against these kinds of teams. I mean, Jackson had almost 100 yards on just 3 receptions and a touchdown. So, hell of a day for App State. And I'm just more impressed. Again, there's nothing that we do offensively that will surprise me, but certainly more impressed with our defense.
Yeah, no, the defense definitely stepped up. I mean, unfortunately, it seems like Georgia State has the fate of Marshall, where they're just going to go on this little slide here.
Right.
Maybe like Marshall, who we'll talk about in a minute, they can start to turn things around. But not a good showing there. I know Granger probably wanted a better parting gift for his senior day down there in Atlanta, but was not to be. As you mentioned with Aguilar too, it's funny. Not amazing statistically, but still a good game, quality game. But he's going to be frustrated because I think he put the ball on the ground at least twice, fumble-wise. Yeah. One was a turnover, I believe. One he recovered. Right. But that's the kind of game that you win, and he probably doesn't even get on the bus feeling all that great. You know what I mean?
Well, because maybe he does. And that's the right. No, I think he fumbled once and then threw an interception.
Yeah, he did throw an interception. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which, that game, when he threw that, I believe it was kind of one of those probably doesn't hurt you that bad. I can't remember if that was the one where they got the turnover right back pretty quick too, though.
Yeah, it was. And it was basically just a punt.
Right. Yeah. So didn't end up hurting in the end. But again, we've seen it all season with him specifically and some of the other quarterbacks in this league as well. really good about just kind of letting that slide off his back and move on to the next series. So
California, cool.
Yep. All right. In another shellacking. I mean, we had a couple of these this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, that still seems to be the theme so far, but, Yeah.
Once again, like we said, this one we saw coming. Troy's defense is on fire, and ULM is still struggling to figure out which direction they want to go with who. I don't even know if they had a carousel at the quarterback position for this one. But anything phenomenal here that you took note of for this one?
No, I mean, nothing stood out, right? I mean, listen, it's funny because ULM led the stat sheet, right, offensively. But it just seemed like Troy was just too much, and too often, to be quite honest. I mean, it was really a good performance by their defense. They held them really all the way up until the third quarter scoreless. So, and like you said, Troy's got a good handle on things at this point. ULM, my hope is that because, again, they played App State tough, and the way our defense played, it wasn't terribly hard to do at the time. That said, though, my hope is that they can start trending in the right direction, right? I mean, that's what, but I this year is not going to be their year, and especially against a team like Troy who's hot. Yeah.
I mean, so interesting thing that, I didn't recognize until I'm pulling up this in front of me. Neither team ran for 100 yards, which for Troy is shocking. For ULM, it's not shocking because, again, we've talked about that Troy defense. But Kamani Vidal, probably the best running back on the field, his long rush of the day was only 11 yards.
Right.
The biggest rush of the day actually was a 41-yarder from Galloway for ULM. Yeah. But then guess what?
He had 3 other rushes.
3 other rushes, and he only gained 10 yards in those other 3.
Right.
So insanity that all the offense in this game essentially came through the air, which is kind of the complete opposite of how Troy really dominated the offensive side of the ball last year. I mean, to say they dominated, it wasn't the scoreboard domination, right? They didn't light up the scoreboard like they're doing this year. It was winning by controlling the tempo and the clock. It was with great defense. So now they might have the best pairing in the conference. I know we're all talking about James Madison, but Troy could quietly come in here and really be the top dog when it's all said and done, especially because they'll be allowed to be in the championship game. James Madison will not be. So, interesting play there with where Troy's at right now. Very, very quiet and underrated team on the national scene. Most people in the Sun Belt are going to be aware of them, but I think nationally there's people that don't really factor Troy in, and I think they should be.
Yeah, 100%. This was another game that I guess we weren't surprised by it, right? We thought it would be close, but I don't know that at first, with the way the quarterback play went, it was kind of odd to me. Vasco's not going to light the scoreboard up throwing the ball, right?
No.
But 145 yards, you think is not enough to win a football game. I don't know. Your thoughts?
Well, it is when the other quarterback only goes for 49.
That's fair. That's fair.
Again, to be fair to you too, we both thought Finley was going to come in here and probably be the dominant quarterback, right?
That's what I was expecting. Yeah.
I did not think Vasco was going to. Now, we had seen his escapability and his speed really be a huge factor, and he leaned heavily on that because he didn't have as much experience in the pocket, and when it was breaking down, it was just tuck and run. There was no second and third looks.
Right.
Which Texas State has perfect timing. I'm literally about to say Artie Cat, and here's his comment. Perfectly. Artie Cat says, outplayed and outcoached in every facet of the game. Best executed onside kick I've ever seen by Texas State. What a highlight. Oh, man. Yeah. When your onside kick is the most exciting play,
that's
I should temper that. It can become an entirely game-changing play, right? We've seen it with App State against Coastal 2 years ago now, I think.
Right.
And then, we've seen plenty of teams pull it off at multiple levels of football. So it can be one of the most exciting plays, but it's interesting that play is the one that's going to stick out for him in that game because ultimately they still didn't come back and win it. But yeah, anytime. TJ, have you ever been a part of an onside kick, like recovering one?
No, hell no, and I don't want to be. That's no. Listen. Don't put me out there. I'm not. I'm not designed. I'm not built for that. I'm not getting in the mix, and especially if that ball pops up in the air and I got to extend and go get it. Nah, y'all can have that.
Do you remember the attempt by App against UNC?
Yeah, somebody just said that to me today.
Oh.
Yeah, it was painful. I mean, our whole left side got blasted. Yeah. I mean, absolutely just taken for a ride.
Yeah. Now, in that game specifically, it was like, well, hey, it worked out because you actually scored quick enough that we now get the ball back again.
Yeah. But that wasn't the design. That's not the
thing. Yeah, sorry.
What we have to do.
Since we know we got Artie back over here, we will jump back into this game. But yeah, I think really, to me, this one was, even though it wasn't over in the first half, it felt like Texas State jumped out quick.
Yeah.
And they looked pretty good on that first drive, or drive or two. I can't remember if it was the first one they scored on or not.
I think it was.
Okay. So, but then after that, until the end of the game, it literally was the beginning and the end for Texas State, and everything in the middle was just not good.
Yeah, well, and Coastal had a hell of a second quarter. I mean, they put up 2 points. I mean, and then also carried that momentum into the third quarter. I think for this game, Coastal did what Texas State couldn't offensively, right? I mean, and not just throwing the ball. I mean, being able to create plays and create situations to take advantage of, right? I mean, again, Vasquez only threw for 145 yards, but there was also 2 touchdowns involved. So you were able to take advantage of some red zone opportunities, and Texas State was not. And so that was the difference really in this game. Sure, they did a little. Obviously, Texas State did a lot more late, but it wasn't enough.
Right. Yeah, and I was a little surprised Monty didn't go for a little bit more. I didn't think this Coastal defense was going to be able to contain him. I mean, he still goes for 97.
I was going to say 21 carries for 97 yards is still that's not terrible.
Oh no, it's not terrible. But you with 97 yards and that many carries, I thought he'd at least see pay dirt once. Right. I mean, he's probably the most dangerous guy on the field. I know we actually talk about Finley quite a bit, but Marty's probably Texas State's best player. If Artie Cat thinks it's Hobart, the wide receiver, you can chime in. But instead, he's going to let us know it was an embarrassing performance.
Yeah. Well, and listen, it happens, man. It happens.
It does. And honestly, if you're going to have a game like this, and no one wants to hear this, especially Artie, I'm sure, but, you're losing to Coastal Carolina, who, if you look at the standings, sure, they have 2 conference losses, but ever since then, they haven't had one. Right. So really, they've heated up, and they've been hot since. So there's no shame in losing this game, especially on the road in Conway, but a little bit of a surprise that it went exactly the way it did, I guess. Not that ultimately Coastal wins, but yeah. Anyway, I think we spent enough time on that one. A game that was much closer. Finally, we get a close game here, TJ. Right. We had South Alabama 1-touchdown victory over Arkansas State, winning that one 21-14. South Alabama finally starts to kind of right that ship, as we said that, we thought they might be one of the best teams in the West coming into the season, and Arkansas State was going to be down. Well, then I think by the time this game came around, didn't we both favor Arkansas State, or did we just say that they could win this one? I can't quite
I remember saying I wouldn't be surprised by who won this game because it's such a toss-up. Okay. And they both came into this game kind of with very similar records and lead the game with the exact same record. Based on Arkansas's performance in South Alabama. Sorry, I keep wanting to call them Alabama State. Don't know why. Their performance. I do think, first of all, Webb had an amazing game running the ball, 163 yards on 28 carries and a touchdown. I mean, that's, hell of a day for him. I think that made the difference, right, in terms of big picture, what they were able to do offensively, because they did come out they established the run early. They started. I don't know if you watched. Did you watch this whole game?
I feel like this game was on when if I can remember right, when Coastal and Texas State was, I was focusing more on that one because I feel like that game meant more, right? So I did not catch.
Yeah, this game certainly didn't mean as much as the Coastal and Texas State game. However, like I said, South Alabama did come out and they started establishing the run literally right away. You could tell that's what they wanted to do. Running the ball was what they wanted to do. And they were able to do it, and Webb just had an amazing – and that really – honestly, that's the difference. It's not that they did this they did so much amazing. I mean, Rayner outthrew them only for 186 yards, right? So it's not that they had a big day. It's just they came out and established run, and they were just better up front.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, they've always had the defense. So they've had some lapses and stuff, but overall defensively, I mean, they're going to put some of these guys in the NFL. So South Alabama has the talent. Honestly, Arkansas State has some talent. It's just they never seem to kind of fully put it together, at least these last few years. Maybe we said – did we say this one was essentially a coin flip then, I guess?
Yeah, I think so. I think we did say that.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, it was the closest game. No, technically it wasn't the closest game. This one was the closest game, I think.
Rasheen Ali.
Yep.
He showed up in a big way.
38-33. Marshall takes the victory on the NFL Network over Georgia Southern in a game most people didn't see coming. Man, I'm on some Marshall message boards, right, where we share some of this stuff and try and push Sun Belt coverage in general. And their fans were pretty much out of it. I mean, they were kind of battling each other in chats. Frustration and anger boiling over. And then this game happens. And, man, the night and day difference. Obviously, their soccer teams, Sun Belt champions as well, making it to the NCAA soccer tournament. So a bunch of good things kind of happened all at once. It was a big weekend for them as they remember the 75 with obviously the downside of the plane crash and everything that brought the university. But it's, in a weird way, kind of cool to see them memorialize it and always pay their respects the way they do with not only the stuff pregame and during the NFL Network's broadcast, but what they've done with the uniform. They always do something a little special. I think this year was a stripe down the middle of the helmet with every single person's name on it. I mean, those little things mean a lot to a lot of people. So it's cool to see them always pay those respects for that. And then obviously getting the win on top of that was just huge. So besides Rasheen Ali, or if you want to expand on the Rasheen Ali aspect, what would you see in this one from both sides or whatnot?
Yeah, like I said, it's another one of those games of establishing your dominance, right? We knew Rasheen Ali, or at least I think you agree, Rasheen Ali is the best player on the field, right? In DC. And first of all, I love watching him run. I mean, he runs. It's so great watching him run. I don't know if I like him or Marty better in terms of who I like watching run more. Anyway, but it's just the way he carried the ball. It was basically a first down every time he touched the rock. 24 carries for 165 or 68 yards. And
65. You had it right the first time. Yep.
3 touchdowns. I mean, it was really, he played lights out the entire time. And he, it was cool because Brent he had himself a day throwing over 300 yards. But then you turn around and you look at Harris, who had 4 receptions, 447 yards for Marshall. And so it's like, not only did they get it done on the ground, they also got it done in the air. Yeah. And so it's kind of pick your poison. But I think, for me, game ball goes to Rasheen Ali.
Oh, yeah. I don't think there's any doubt about that one. And the cool aspect is that Cole Pennington saw the field pretty much the whole game. And, doesn't throw a touchdown, actually throws an interception. But I still think it was for that kind of a game and that type of atmosphere to go in there and win the game was the most important thing. It didn't really matter what the stats were.
And how you win it. Yeah, just winning.
Yep, exactly. Just win. And I'm missing some comments here, so we'll jump back over here to let people get their stuff in. Big Ten backers tuning into the show. Appreciate you guys joining in. And Artie Cat says, Arkansas State is recruited really well also. Yes, they continue to recruit. Butch Jones is some kind of great recruiter.
It's just developing that talent and getting it to show on the field. I don't understand how do you have that much talent and it not be used on a year in and year out. But I don't know. It's beyond me.
Yeah. I mean, it does look like they got a good one in Jalen Rayner. I think he's gonna continue to develop there for them, but he's gonna need even more weapons than what he's surrounded by now. And Artie also says, big win for the Herd, stop the losing streak for them. Absolutely. A couple of teams are looking to stop losing streaks, and the Herd really needed one in a bad way.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately for them, well, let's see. They are 5-5, so they can make a bowl game. They just got to win one of their last two games. I think both those games.
They got South Alabama next week, so it's a good chance, or this week coming. So it's a good chance that they get bowl eligible here.
Yeah, I mean, they could. It wouldn't shock me at all if they win both of their last games because they follow that South Alabama game up with Arkansas State. So, but they could lose both, and nothing would shock me.
That's fair.
This is why they call it the Fun Belt, right? Like it's just you just never know. James Madison could drop their last two games, and I think that's actually somewhat realistic.
I was going to say that's not out of the realm of possibility.
No, not at all. And so all the arguments and talk goes down by the wayside when you drop your last two games. Again, even if they do that, they're still going to possibly go to a bowl game if not enough teams win. So, really interesting aspect there. TJ will take our little mid-show break and bring you an ad from our presenting sponsor and the stuff that we swear by because we actually use it, Dano Seasoning, and we'll be right back to preview this coming week's action.
Yum, yum, get your some. Very good. Yum, yum, get your some. Yum, yum, get your some. Yum, yum, get your some.
Dano Seasoning, food's favorite flavor.
Yum, yum, get you some.
I'm Joe Burrito, your favorite burrito. Whoa.
Joe, we all know you're the best.
What?
You can always do better.
What you got?
Try the new Dano's Hot Chipotle.
Hey. Ooh, that's spicy. Yum, yum.
Yum, yum, get you some.
Gotta love that little dancing burrito, man.
Yeah, man. Well, that's spicy.
You know what? I had Chipotle the other night, and I should have put some Danos on it. I've yet to put it on a burrito. And
I'm starting to put it on everything, man. Might as well give me.
I know. I guess because with how they wrap it up, this is not an ad. No free ads, Chipotle. If you'd like to pay us a sponsorship, we'll gladly add you to the list.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, we love the burrito bowls, man, and the steak bowls and everything else. But no more free ads. But yeah, I don't know why I didn't grab it because, like, you're right. I'd grab condiments and seasoning are big to me. I like flavor.
Yeah,
everybody else does. So yeah, I don't know why it didn't hit me. Even once I was finished, it never hit me. It just hit me now that I should have put some Danos on.
Maybe I could have took my bowl up a notch.
Yeah. Well, next time I'll put a little a note on my hand here for being ready and prepared better for the next iteration of this. So this weekend we've got some crazy matchups. Obviously, James Madison is going to be hosting College Game Day, but we're going to go in order for how you're going to see the games on your television screen or your streaming service, whatever you're using to watch these things. And the first one, probably not going to be a good one, but if a shock of the world could happen, maybe.
I'm gonna go with no.
UL Monroe versus number 13 in the country, Ole Miss, and obviously Ole Miss is hosting that one, so nothing's going to be going ULM's way in all likelihood. Is this one? I mean, I guess we'll just talk it with the easy aspect. Is this one even close?
No. I will say I did like Ole Miss's showing last week against Alabama. I think they played. They played Alabama last week. Alabama did come back and they started out playing really well. I know this isn't about the SEC, but they did start out playing really well. But then Alabama towards the end was just too much. I say that to say this is going to be a rendition of that. ULM might come out and give them everything they got in the first couple of drives, maybe. But then after that, it'll be too much.
Yeah, and of note, not that these teams are on the same level. Ole Miss should be actually better, but ULM has already played Texas A&M earlier in the season.
Right.
And if we remember correctly, that game was 47-3.
Yeah.
I knew it was bad. I had to bring it up to get the exact score.
Yeah.
I'd expect very similar results here.
I was going to say more of the same.
Like you said, Ole Miss started the game off against Alabama very well.
Mm-hmm.
And they obviously got away from them, but they're going to be mad about that one. And I think they're going to take it out on the Warhawks this weekend. But there is
they'll be mad up until halftime when it's like 30-3.
Yeah, that's true. Then they'll calm down a little bit. Yeah. Stadium will empty out a little bit.
Start talking about what they're going to do after the game. That's what we used to do when we were on the sidelines. We'd be up like by 30 at halftime. Me, Leonard, Jock, all of us, we'd be sitting there like, "Hey man, where's the party tonight? What are we doing?" So
yeah,
maybe I shouldn't say that.
Very true. Well, you could say it now. It's been a while.
Yeah,
right?
Now it's over.
Oh man, Artie Cat says at least those ULM color scheme looks fantastic. Maybe the Tiger Shark helmet. Haven't seen it this year. Yeah, that is one of the coolest uniforms in college football. It's one of the coolest uniforms I've ever seen. Actually, when it comes out looking like a fighter jet. And it's done well, because there's some teams that have tried some stuff like that and it doesn't go so well. I mean, Army, Navy do pretty good ones too. I think one of my other favorite ones, I didn't care for it when I saw it on the field because it just looked weirder. But up close, there was a couple years ago when Navy did like the battleships and stuff. They were a little different depending on the player. Maybe they were all different on the field, but it almost looked like airbrush. And when it looked on the helmet, it was sweet. Again, once you're playing on the field and going at full speed and all this stuff, it doesn't kind of come across as well. But the Warhawks have one of the coolest helmets with that. I'm trying to think of what the plane's called, but anyway, yeah. I mean, just one of the cooler looks that they can throw in there as their kind of alternate, right? They call that the alternate uni or their third uniform. So I do agree with Artie there that they have a really cool aspect to their uniform collection with that one. But that might be the only great thing on the field if they end up wearing that this week.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of Army and Navy, as we just did, Coastal actually travels up to Army. Another noon kickoff, this one on CBS Sports Network, which TJ and I both get because we're both YouTube TV subscribers.
Absolutely.
Damn, I got to stop with the free ads. That's another one.
I know, man. No more free, Randy.
Nope. So I was bringing this up, and I think I still have it up. Yes, I still have the tab up. Coastal hosted Army last year. Mm-hmm. They won the game by 10 points, 38-28. Army's done some better things here more recently.
Right.
What do you think about this one being hosted up there at West Point this weekend?
So I think Daly could probably have a good day, right? So far he's been carrying Army, running the football. I do not think that Army's going to pull it out. I don't think Army wins. Just because Coastal – now, listen, it's not because Coastal has this high-powered offense that's explosive and they're going to just run the ball and run the score up and run it out. That's not why. It's my reason for picking Coastal is because of what I think of Army. I don't know that they have enough at all offensively. Right. Outside of their run game, I don't know what else they do well. So when you're that one-dimensional, I think it adds an element of predictability, right, to your offense. And so I think, Coastal takes advantage of that. It's kind of one of those games where Coastal gets out, a touchdown or two ahead, they can kind of chew the clock at that point. Yeah,
and to make note of that, I actually clicked further into this game. Army threw the ball 8 times last year in this matchup, and they only completed 4 of those 8 passes. So you're right. I mean, they are going to have to do something phenomenal offensively to win. They did beat a ranked Air Force team 23-3 2 weeks ago.
Okay, yeah.
But I mean, in the same regard, Air Force is much like Army, right? I mean, they both
do the same thing.
Right. They're going to see something completely different from Coastal. Army just barely escaped Holy Cross last week, who's an FCS team, 17-14. Now, that's not to say Holy Cross isn't a good FCS team. They are.
Yeah, but it's an FCS team nonetheless.
Yeah, you got to show better than 17-14. And Artie makes mention it's always awesome for Sunbelt teams to play service academies. I think
100%.
I think it's awesome for just about anybody to play service academies. I know I always thought it was kind of cool when you guys hosted the Citadel. And maybe you can talk about that real quick. What is it like playing, a service academy? Maybe not so much at home, obviously, but maybe when you travel down there, like, does it feel different than a regular game, or what is that like?
Well, when we went to Citadel, it was hot every time. Every time it was hot. I mean, like triple digits, it seemed like. And so that's the first thing. But secondarily, you have a healthy respect, right? I mean, when you're playing the game, obviously you want to win, and you do all that you can to win. And that kind of thing. But there's a healthy respect for what those guys do and the things that they go through, that you don't try to run the score up, and they're respectful too, right? Like they're coached with a certain level of discipline that they're going to do the right thing during the game, after the game. It's not a lot of trash talk back and forth like that. They run their play, they get back to the huddle. It's not from a viewership perspective, it's not one of those games that you're like, oh man, did you just see that? Like, after the play, here's some extracurriculars, those kinds of. It's not one of those games. It's a fundamental X and O style game. You want to win, you want to get out of there, with the win, and then at the end, there's going to be respect from both sides. So,
in that regard, is it not in a bad way, but is it kind of a little boring?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was boring every time because here's the thing, like I knew we were going to beat them. Like there's that point. They weren't good enough to beat us. And then secondarily, it's just like nobody's talking trash. Like when we play UT Chat, right? UT Chat was awful. They were an awful football team every time we played them, just about. But they talked so much trash and made it fun. Like you wanted to beat the brakes off of them because, and they did like, little dirty things, little sly things here and there to make you want to beat them. This game is kind of like, I hate to use the word feel sorry. Like you don't feel sorry for anybody. Like college football is great. I mean, it's great what you guys are doing. It's just one of those things like, it's kind of like, all right, guys, let's call the dogs off. Let's get some other people in here, get them to play. And let's show some respect for, our people that are going to be fighting for our country. So,
yeah, no, that's very cool. And I think, you and I both have family members who have served. So it's also like another cool aspect to, like for you to participate in something like that. And then for me as a fan, they do a rifle regiment or drill. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if I got the name right, but they do the really cool stuff at the halftime. It's just like different than other halftime performances because, like you said, it's like a quieter crowd that's way respectful. Mm-hmm. Like sometimes when bands play, everybody's just talking. At app games are a perfect example of this, actually. Right. There's a lot of talking and people not paying attention. But it's very different when you go to the Citadel, or at least, I mean, it's probably all of the service academies, but I only had experience at the Citadel myself. So, it was weird in a cool way, right? Because you just don't get to see it. But yeah, I could see how the on-field stuff would kind of translate for you guys when you're out there. And Artie says he watched Coast Guard Academy versus the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy football game last weekend, and says it was a good game.
Yeah, so, nice.
Yeah, I'm sure those guys, like you said, they're giving their all for their country. They're probably some really, really competitive guys.
Oh, for sure.
I'm sure that's one thing you did notice. Like you said, maybe there's less trash talk, but maybe there's more of that, like, all right, this guy doesn't quit, though.
Yeah, no, they're going to keep coming at you. They're going to keep giving you 100% of what they got.
Yeah.
Right, respect and sportsmanship, 100%. They're going to shake your hand. They're going to look you in the eye. They're not going to talk a lot of trash. Their fans are going to be respectful. I mean, I remember one time I got hit out of bounds on their sideline, and probably 4 people went and grabbed my arm to help me up.
Dang.
So, I mean, it's just, but it's that kind of environment because, it's just who they are. That's how they're raised and trained. And, it doesn't make for a very fun game to watch because you don't get those extracurriculars and things like that. But you have a different level of respect playing them. And it's almost like, all right, I see what you guys are doing here and I appreciate it.
Right. Well, hopefully we can appreciate them and also come away with a coastal victory for the conference, because that would be a bad loss. Let's be honest, right?
Yeah.
Losing one to Navy. Another game. Actually, I think this one's a little different.
I was going to say it, but I'll let you go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'll just start off and then I'll let you take over. So Southern Miss is traveling to Mississippi State Saturday, another noon kickoff, this one on ESPN Plus. And go ahead, TJ, because I actually want to hear your thoughts first on this one, because I think we're going to mirror each other a little bit.
Yeah, I think this one may be one of those sneaky good games, right? Because Mississippi State is not who we think, or at least who they were in years past, right?
Yep.
I think it hurt them a couple years back when App State beat them, and they haven't sort of recovered as much, right? And I think Frank Gore Jr. is going to have a day. And I say that, I think I've said that the past 3 weeks, and I've been right the past 3 weeks because he's good. I mean, look who his daddy is. That said, though, I think this could be one of those games that, you flip to, you're watching a game and you see it across the ticker and it's 14-13, Southern Miss is winning by a point kind of deal. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Let me check this out and see what's going on. So I'm not picking Southern Miss to win it, but I'm certainly not telling you that it won't be a game to watch, because I'm certainly going to be kind of flipping back and forth and checking to see what the scores are, especially for a game like this.
Yeah. So Southern Miss, 2-game win streak after a massive slide, right? We know that going in. Mississippi State's the opposite, right? I mean, they had 2 wins strung together in the middle of the year there, and they're on a 3-game losing streak. Obviously, those are all SEC games at this point of the season. So it's not necessarily that, Southern Miss is going to come in, like you said. It's not Southern Miss is going to come in and wipe the floor with them. That's not going to happen. I mean, I guess it's possible if they're just so beat down. And like you said, they control the clock and Frank Gore just goes off. But Frank Gore did have some struggles against Florida State, and Florida State is not Mississippi State. But there are going to be bigger, stronger down linemen and probably a little bit more capable linebackers than what we typically see in the Sun Belt. So they're going to have to still have success in other aspects of the game, which is where they've kind of struggled until this 2-game winning streak. So that's why I agree with you, is there's aspects to the game that Southern Miss has really started to figure out lately that they didn't have just a few weeks ago, and that could be the biggest determining factor. And yeah, that's right. Neil says they just fired their head coach.
Oh, yeah.
True.
Yep.
So either, TJ, they rally around that, or like you said with another game previously, they're just done, right? Like they don't care much anymore, which is hard to say. But let's see, they have 4 wins. They have to win both games to become bowl eligible. So they have to have. I mean,
obviously think they win this game. I just don't think it's going to be by much. I think it's going to be a better game than people are letting on. Yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked, though, if Southern Miss can, like you said, it's one of those games where if they do just enough to hang around long enough, they might have a shot.
That's what I'm saying. Listen, don't be surprised if you're checking these 12 o'clock games out and it comes across your ticker that it's 14-10 or 17-14, Southern Miss is up by 3 at halftime. Like, don't be shocked, because it can certainly, again, I'm not picking them to win it, but it certainly can happen.
Artie does not seem to agree with us. He says it's been a long time since Southern Miss could walk in and compete with their in-state rivals. It won't be this year either.
That's fair. Fair point. I mean, again, they're not playing Ole Miss though, right? This isn't your daddy's, Mississippi State Aggies. Like, this is a team that's very gettable, if I can use that term.
Yes. Yeah, I think you can. We'll go with it. We'll add it to the dictionary and use it from now on. Very gettable. No, but I do agree. I mean, this is one of those ones that Southern Miss is going to walk in there and just they're going to be able to compete, I think, So, we'll see what happens on Saturday around noon, though. Also around noon, well, that's when college game day will be ending. But before that, it's going to be one of the biggest parties ever to hit Harrisonburg, Virginia.
Yes, sir.
And it's going to be even bigger now because they know that they cannot possibly make the New Year's Six at this point, right? That was an attainable goal had they gotten the waiver last night or tonight. Right. Now they know they can't get there. They can still become bowl eligible, but let's be honest, for all intensive purposes, this weekend will be bigger than any bowl game they can make, right? Yeah. So it's going to be just a crazy atmosphere. What I'm hearing, what I'm seeing all over social media is that this will be bigger than the other two previous appearances that GameDay has made in Harrisonburg, Virginia. Half of us will be there. I'm going to be traveling up like a crazy madman. I still don't know.
How far does it drive?
I think it's like right at 4.
Okay, not terrible.
No, it's not. I mean, it takes me 3 to get to Boone, and I do that one 5, 6 times
regularly. So yeah, not terrible.
And my dad picked up a hotel. He's actually traveling down from Pennsylvania.
Okay, so we're actually kind of meeting in the middle, kind of deal.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it's going to be kind of a nightmare. Apparently, Liberty has a home game, and some other college somewhere kind of close has a home game or hosting some other event. And I'm like, oh man, I get to hear about all this now. But I'm going to get there way early. I'm going to take in the game day experience. I got to do it in Boone last year. Going to do it in a different spot for the only second time. I mean, it's the second time I've ever gone to game day to experience whatever crazy circus is going to be there from 9 till noon before this game kicks off. It is disappointing. What do you think about, in a general aspect, this game or others? When game day goes, don't you feel like they should push the game on one of their networks more? I mean, it's on the network. Sorry, it's on ESPN platform. It's on ESPN Plus. But like the Troy game last year against App was not on anything but Plus. This one's not on anything but Plus. To me, it just doesn't make sense to do this massive infomercial for 3 hours, 4 hours, and then put this game on a streaming service that most casual fans are not going to go search this out.
Right. Yeah. And you know, obviously you and I, we aren't casual fans, but generally speaking, no, people are not going to flip on their TV and watch this. And it would also be cool for college game day. And I get they have to do the broadcast hours during the broadcast hours, right? Like you won't want college game day going on during a football game. But it sure would be nice if when the games that they pick to have college game day at, that it goes from that broadcast straight into the game.
Yes.
I just think that would be absolutely fun. Like, you know, they start at 9 o'clock in the morning. The game's at noon, right?
Yep.
And, you know, I purposely think that every game day or every stadium that they choose to go to for game day should have a 12 o'clock kickoff.
I think that makes sense.
Treat it like Fox's Big Noon.
Yeah. And you know what I think, as Artie chimes in and says he wants some of the wind taken out of JMU sales.
Me
so
too,
do we.
Me does.
I think what I'm hearing from most of the conference is that that's what they want, especially now that the waiver's been denied, because now you can kind of talk that trash back and there's not much they can say, because at least beforehand there was the possibility that they could talk you right back with the trash by saying, yeah, we're going to get this waiver. Neil says, yeah, so it's Liberty, Virginia Tech, Virginia, and JMU are all at home.
Yeah. Good luck to you, brother. Good luck to you.
Yeah, well, hopefully I'll avoid it by just getting there crazy early. But, yeah, Montreal says he agrees. Neil's giving the thumbs up to us on that one. But, yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I think they should roll it right in. And honestly, I know that this isn't really probably possible because a lot of times they actually end up flying at least Herb Street out to go call a game somewhere.
Right, he calls the late game. He always calls the 8 o'clock game. Prime time.
Gotcha. So what I would like to see, though, is like the crew stick together. And I don't care if you do what McAfee does on his show and go wild during the broadcast.
Right.
I want you to continue the party in the stadium in some booth.
Yes.
Or have the guys on like McAfee does with his stuff. Where I think he did one of the championship or CFP games last year, maybe the CFP game, the final. I didn't love the setup fully, but I like the idea of it being more of a natural feel, not so stuck up with the suits and everything.
Yeah.
And they're just cutting up and they're making jokes and they're just keeping the entertainment value there in between some of the set plays that are, you know, going for a yard or two and they're not needing to focus on, you know, a 40-yard downfield pass. But to me, that's what I want to watch as a viewer. I want to see more of a total involvement of the game day atmosphere.
Yeah, well, and two, for me, like what I envision for game day, right? Obviously, we talked about the noon kickoff, but like I'm thinking of App State just because that's the university I went to, but like not having it in Duck Pond Field, right?
Right.
Let's maybe move it to the front of the stadium where the tailgate happens, right? And build the atmosphere there. And so then it's less of a transition going from the tailgate to or going from game day broadcast, and they just walk right into the stadium and already have a booth set up, maybe in the end zone or maybe at a corner of an end zone or wherever, and just keep the party going. So I think personally, again, listen, I mean, we're just two talking heads. We're not going to make much change with what we say, but that's an ideal picture for me is, college game day starts at 9 a.m. Most 12 o'clock games, tailgate starts at about 8 or 9 anyway. People are going to get out there probably 7.
The people that don't do it right.
Well, true. Yes.
Well, us App Staters, we started at 6 a.m. That's
I'm not necessarily proud of that, but I do have a little Bailey's in my coffee at
there you go
in the morning. Yeah. So, which is why I don't make a lot of noon games because of that reason, because, then I'm drinking literally all day. But anyway, I digress. But that's my vision for it. So I say all that to say, anyway, going into, Neil, I'm with you. I think if we play the way we played last week defensively, because JMU doesn't have a high-powered offense, right? We discussed this multiple times throughout the season. They can score 30, but can they score 40 and 50 points? And I don't think that they can, right? Well, let me rephrase. Not that I don't think that they can. I don't think if given the opportunity, they will, right?
Gotcha.
And so I think that, sure, they got a stout defensive line, but if we're able to maximize what we can do out on the outsides with our receiving core, I think we can score 35, 40, 45 points against them, and I don't think that they can match our firepower. So I'm picking App State. Obviously, it's a hard pick, but it's also a head pick based on the philosophy that both teams play with, because we are big play and we are sort of finesse, whereas James Madison is power, we'll run right at you. You know what's coming, try and stop it.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing is, like, you look at these scores that James Madison has put up, and they're almost routinely putting up the 30-plus, low 40s.
Right.
So impressive offensively, but, they do have a couple of close scores within there. And I think this is that type of game more than some of the other ones. And I think what's the line on this one now? I know it's moved a little bit.
55 and a half is the over under, and then JMU -9.
Okay. I mean, I'm hammering the over on that.
Sure.
Well, I don't know if I'm hammering the over.
I'm thinking I'm guessing 60, because here's the thing. We're gonna have to score 40 points to win.
Yes.
We're gonna have to score 40. And we've already discussed that they can score 20 to 30. So I'm certainly taking 60 as the over, in my opinion.
Yeah. RG saying spread the field, slant routes, fades, etc. Yeah, well,
exactly.
And as TJ said, we haven't done a lot of that yet this year.
No, and this would be the game to do it.
Right. We've mixed a little bit of that, but still not a ton, really. I mean,
not enough for my liking as a receiver. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's like the play that specifically I can remember Dexter and Hans making, where it's like these short inside routes that their speed makes the biggest difference once they get the ball in their hands. I feel like we don't run that type of play hardly at all anymore. In fact, when we're going inside slants, for whatever reason, it seems like it's always the tight end now, and it's like still a rare occurrence.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's strange that they haven't opened it up, because I think we got the guy at the quarterback who can do it. They obviously have the guy at quarterback that can do it. So I think this one's just exciting. I mean, again, as we said, if they could roll this into the broadcast and keep it going, I think a lot of people would be. Yeah, I feel like the viewership's going to be lackluster in this because it's on Plus, which is a downer for both JMU and just the average viewer, because I think it's going to be a hell of a game with a good atmosphere. I mean, I think this stadium's going to be packed out. Have you seen the secondary market for these tickets?
I have not.
Okay, so when I checked the game before game day was announced, they were all very reasonable. I mean, still high, I guess, in some regards. But, when you list them on a secondary market, you got to list them higher than you want because they take some of your money. So some of them in the stadium were, 100, closing in on 200 for better seats.
Right.
It's realistic. It was a big game whether game day was going to be there or not. Man, I'm glad I got tickets through somebody else. Shout out Mike Clifton, if he's possibly watching. An App State fan who lives in Boone himself had some extras, and I grabbed him right when they made the announcement, and he didn't try and scam me. So I got it for face value, so I appreciate that.
Nice.
But some of these tickets are going for $300, $400, $500, $600. Now, I'm not saying they're all selling at that price, but they're being listed for that many hundreds of dollars. So that's why I say this is their bowl game for all intensive purposes. It doesn't get bigger than this, because even if you go to a bowl game, all those fans in town they're not going to that bowl game.
No, because they don't really matter that much, and you were kind of you were, second pick or second fiddle sort of deal.
Yeah. So I think I don't know if we touched on this one, but Artie says you got to make JMU chase you around. Yes, you do. 100%. And one more thing to touch on. ODU finally kind of broke through the running ability, the run stopping of James Madison's defense. Mm-hmm. App State will have to do that to win the game as well. I'm not saying they got to run for 200 plus, but they have to make them respect it.
Yeah, well, and we've got the running backs to do that. So it's not my concern. My concern isn't whether or not we will try to come out and establish the run. You're right. It is our Super Bowl too, Neil. That's not my concern. My concern is that will we play balanced enough football to make them respect the pass?
True.
And when it's when it's 3rd and 4, are we going to line up and run stretch zone? That's my concern.
Yeah. So what do you think about? Sorry, I keep going on one more thing, but what do you think about the more of the especially this past weekend against Georgia State, more of the running back rotation where we used, I think, all 5 running backs on the roster for Saturday?
Yeah, well, I think towards the end we kind of just threw.
Yeah, I guess that's true. That's not the greatest game to judge that on.
Yeah, no. But I do like it because it keeps fresh, it keeps them off balance, and we've got multiple styles of runners. So it certainly throws up some change up to a team like JMU hits you in the mouth with a bunch of different flavors.
And I'm wondering if part of that was by design, not to put it on film, obviously, but like you said, these guys all run a little differently.
Yep.
Get them all some reps before they get into a game where we are going to use them all again. Maybe just for some decoy aspects, right? Like, so-and-so's in the game. We know, Amani Marshall, let's say, he's probably our biggest back overall, I think, at least as listed on the roster.
Right.
It's 3rd and 1 or 2, and they're thinking we're running it up the gut with him. But then we screen out a tight end as we so famously do sometimes.
Right.
And that's where they run that because whatever, I don't know. But, it could be beneficial that we have so many talented guys on the roster. I think we spent enough time on that one. So Texas State travels to Jonesboro, Arkansas to take on Arkansas State. I got 2 quarterbacks up, but as we mentioned earlier, this is more of like Marty's team. Do you agree with me on that for Texas State?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, he's got over 1,000 yards already on the season on just 159 carries and 8 touchdowns. So, yeah, I certainly do feel like it's his team. I'm taking Texas State, obviously. I think they're going to be too much. I think, again, going back to Marty, controlling the ground game, controlling the clock, they're going to get more possessions. And I don't think Arkansas State is going to have enough time, really. I think it's going to come down to them running out of time to make themselves competitive in this game.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think we still need to see more of the maturation of Jalen Raynor's game overall. Yeah. I think he's making strides in that regard, but he needs more talent around him too. As we said, they recruit well, but for whatever reason, it's not hitting. Like you said, maybe it's a developmental thing, or maybe it's, early season struggles and some of these guys kind of shut themselves down a little bit and they say, you know what, I'm going to transfer after this year, whatever. I hope that's not really happening, but we know in some places it does. And we'll see if that's kind of the case here, but hopefully at least for the people that are going to be watching this one at 3 p.m. on ESPN Plus, they can put a performance out on the field. And I think TJ Finley has a better game than he had against Coastal. There's no way he kind of plays like that 2 weeks in a row. Obviously, this Arkansas State team defensively is not what Coastal is defensively, so he should rebound himself there in this one. Let's see. The next one, we've got Louisiana traveling to Troy. Any chance that the Cajuns can kind of right the ship after this surprise? Well, some of their fans thought it was a really surprising loss this past Thursday against Southern Miss.
Can they? Yes. Will they? No. I think, Troy's defense is too much. Listen, as much as I would like to say that, that Louisiana, for a fact that I have a healthy respect for Louisiana. I've always had it. I just do. I've got much more respect for Troy, and more so defensively, and the fact that this year offensively they sort of added a spark, to their team, which they didn't have last year. They dominated mostly via defense. Now they can do it both ways, scoring 40 points. So they become dangerous. I don't think, what is the line? I wasn't going to say 16 and a half.
Is it really?
Yeah,
wow.
16 and a half is what Vegas is saying, Troy in the points. I was going to say 10 maybe.
Well, and we still have Zion Chris out, as we know, unfortunately. So that's probably a part of this. I don't think you're going to see quite the quarterback. I mean, now saying that, Fields probably throws the ball better, at least right now, than Zion does. But Zion's way more dangerous, as we both, I think, would agree, because of his legs. And, I mean, he still has an arm. It's just, I don't know if he's got the experience back there yet to be as good of a distributor as the ball as he'll probably become, right?
Right.
This one, I think it could be a little closer than what, like you said, than Vegas says, but I don't see any reason or way that Louisiana takes out Troy. I think they're just too strong and rolling along right now for this one to really go their way. And we missed this one, but Artie says they really need that 7th win there against Arkansas State this week.
I think
they'll be battling for that. I guess that one pretty much covers this one here. I think we have 2 more games left on the slate, and I think
3. Marshall, and then Marshall.
Oh, you're right.
ODU,
you're right.
and then.
Oh yeah, we saved the special one for you for last, TJ. The first one's coming up. But before we get to that one, Marshall travels to South Alabama Saturday night. 5 p.m. Eastern. Well, it's an evening, I guess you really want to call it.
Probably are traveling Friday night.
We've got now you mentioned this, right? We talked about Rasheen Ali already a little bit in tonight's show, but you talked about South Alabama establishing the run with Webb, who's actually not the one pictured here. I think that's Callan Lacey. But speak of both running backs, and is this like a run? Is this just a running back duel in this game? Do you think?
Yep, I think it's going to be a battle of whose defensive line can stop who's running back first. I think Rasheen Ali is going to – I think they both rush over 100 yards, but I think it's going to be where the impact plays happen, right? Who's going to break that 30-yarder that's going to get them in the end zone, or at least put them on the doorstep to getting in the end zone, regardless of how they score. Who's going to have that one big play? I think these are two teams that are very – similar on paper in terms of what they want to do, right? Which is run the ball and play defense. I do think Marshall's defensive line is a little better than South Alabama's, so I think they may have the edge. But these are two. I say identical. I don't mean identical in exactly its definition, but I do think these two teams sort of mirror each other in terms of what they want to do on the football field.
Yeah, I think Marshall's defense, to me, they went through that spell, right, where they just had that losing streak. But Marshall defense, to me, is a lot like App's. Like you said, they have a good defensive line. They have a good front seven, really, because they've got, Owen Porter back there at the linebacker position, who's one of our favorite players in the conference, absolutely. I think. They just have, like, these small mental lapses that lead to big plays. But, like,
missed assignments.
Yeah, so it's like, they're right there. I think South Alabama thought that, like I said, we all kind of thought that they'd be right there and be one of the favorites, and they're just clearly not. But they do have the capability to kind of explode there, as we saw against Oklahoma State earlier in the year. Just don't see it happening. I think this one is this week's kind of coin flip to me, though. Nothing would shock me. Yeah, in this one. So definitely tune in. I guess if we're saying that, definitely tune into that one, because you're going to see some electric running backs.
Absolutely. And you know how I feel about Mahdi and Rasheen Ali. Those are my guys. But Webb is no slow leak. No,
not at all. And this guy right here, Colin Lacey, one of the leading receivers in the country. I think he's number 4 right now in the country on the list. So,
he's got 71 receptions for almost 1,100 yards and 6 touchdowns. So,
not necessarily getting into the end zone as much as I guess you would think with somebody with that many yards, but still just racking them up. So, keep your eye on him.
Back like Webb, sometimes you got to go score and you don't, and you get tackled at the 5, and then they run it in.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, the glory goes to the running back at that point. Well, so now we've got the Battle of the Blues. Maybe that's we're going to coin this one with that or not. It was my lame attempt at bringing something
I
to
like
light.
Listen, I like it. I do like ODU's colors, though. I like the blue on blue, especially when they're at home and they play that light blue on dark blue. I like it with that gray outline. Yeah, sweet jersey, man. I like it.
Yeah, I do agree with you. You know from past that I'm a UNC hater, but I like the light blue mixed with the dark. I don't know why. Yeah. I like the combination. You're right. When I went up there and watched App play them, they're wearing the dark ones with the two-tone.
Like man. I'm telling you, it is sweet.
I do like it.
Is sweet.
Yeah, shout out to the Monarchists for having a pretty sweet jersey that they get to rep when they're playing up there. But they travel on the road this time down to Statesboro, Georgia for this one on a night tilt on ESPN Plus. Caleb Hood is going to go up against Jason Henderson in that vicious ODU defense, which wasn't so vicious last week. But do they right the ship? I mean, actually, both of these teams need to come in here and right the ship. They're both coming off a loss. So who do you think rights the ship better to get back on the right track in this one?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think the uniforms are going to be the only thing sweet for ODU going down to Georgia. I think Georgia Southern takes this game. And I've been riding with ODU at least through midway of the season when they started surprising us. But I think Georgia Southern is going to be too much, especially sort of needing the win, right, to keep themselves relevant in the East. And sort of in the top of that class, because now they're battling with, App State and, obviously James Madison. They can't play for a championship, but, the East is starting to get a little competitive, with Coastal, with App, and I think that they want to kind of hold serve. So I think this is a game that Georgia Southern needs, and I think they take it.
Yeah. So for bowl eligibility, they don't need it.
Well, no. I mean, need it for conference standings.
Yeah, no. I knew what you meant. Sorry, but I just wanted to point out that because they don't need it, but ODU does need it for bowl eligibility. They have to have their last 2. And they're not only playing Georgia Southern next week after this one, they're playing Georgia State. So they got 2 Georgia teams in a row. So it'll be interesting to see if that helps them or actually puts a little too much pressure, and gripping the ball too tight and all the little tiny things that go into
the details.
So but I think this one could be fun to watch. I still think it could be.
Oh, I think it's going to be a great game. I think ODU is going to play outstanding on defense. I don't think they don't miss tackles, right? They play assignment football. They're very, very well coached, and they do well with attention to detail. It's just going to come down to who has the better athletes. And this is going to be when you've got two teams that rarely make mistakes, it's going to be it comes down to players at that point. And I think Georgia Southern has more of them offensively than ODU does.
I definitely agree with that.
Artie Cat agrees.
Yeah, he's picking Southern all the way. I agree with you there, though. And Southern definitely has the better overall talent. I think ODU is kind of like it's not really a military school, obviously, but it's based up there in that area. And I feel like they have a lot of those mannerisms within that program. Jason Henderson being a good example of that, I guess, is what I'm looking for. Maybe he talks a lot of trash and all this other stuff, but it looks like he just makes a tackle, gets up, and gets back into you know what I mean? Like,
listen, if you can talk as much trash as you want when you don't miss tackles.
True. Yeah. But that will take us to the big
Daniels.
one. The big one for TJ. For those that don't know, for whatever reason, no, he's explained the reason, but TJ is a pretty big LSU fan. Do you own that much LSU, like apparel or anything though, or you just like how they play the game and
no? I mean, I've got some LSU stuff. I got some shirts and some. I'm not. You're not gonna see me with like LSU posters and all that nonsense. Like I'm gonna be riding down the street. That's a LSU fan. No, I just like when they're on TV. I watch them, and it's my outside of App State, it's my favorite college football team. And right now, we've got the best player in college football, in my opinion. Jaden is, he's the sole reason that they're ranked at this point.
Yeah, that's true.
Defense has been giving up a lot of points, on defense. And offensively, quite honestly, outside of Malik Neighbors, there's not really a ton in terms of playmakers. Now, obviously, granted, we've got some. But Jaden he's the guy. He is, and he's so slight, right? He's kind of a skinnier guy. He was taking some chances running the ball earlier in the season that I don't know if Montrell's still watching, that he and I were texting each other back and forth about, like, he might want to start sliding because this is getting out of control.
Yeah, that's true.
He was getting folded up like a lawn chair earlier in the year. But he started getting smarter, and they started taking advantage of his speed and running him outside. And also, some, nondescript plays too, as far as, improvising when there's not a play and things break down. So I think this past week, he had exactly. Yeah. We were texting each other about it as the season was going on. He was taking a lot of hits, man. And I was like, I don't know. I think it was the first game of the season when he got folded up against Florida State. That was crazy. Anyway, I say all that to say, first of all, this won't be close. I don't think this will be close at all. But secondarily, I do think it's another game stat-wise that Jaden proves himself to be, in my opinion. And I think in the opinion of a lot of people, probably, outside of maybe Brock Bowers, who I think has fallen down a peg or two, I would certainly say Jaden is ahead of Brock Bowers at this point. And then maybe Michael Penix. I think really that's it at this point in terms of people that you can definitively say are better than him or mean more to college football and to their team. Obviously, you've got Caleb Williams, who's going to come out a higher draft pick because of what he can do talent-wise with his arm. But meaning more to their team and doing more on the field, I don't think anybody's doing more than Jaden right now.
Yeah, only other guy name-wise I'll throw out there, but I agree with you. He's kind of behind these other ones. Is Marvin Harrison Jr. He's just he's like the Caleb Williams though. Like he may not be get the recognition, but he'll still be the top wide receiver taken, and there's no doubt of that. So.
Yeah, Caleb will be the first quarterback off the board, and we all know that. But in terms of what Jaden means to his team and what each individual means to their team, he certainly means the most. He's their entire offense.
Yeah, and it's probably not even close. He'll probably laugh at it, but it's like he means to his team what Tebow meant to Florida. Doesn't mean Tebow is going to go be an amazing pro. I think, and the reason I'm saying it's probably not a good comparison, I think Daniels will be a better pro than Tebow was, but as far as the college aspect, he is as important as Tebow was to that Florida team for LSU right now.
Yeah.
So there's no Tennessee style upset for the Panthers here.
No. I love you, Coach Elliott, but it's gonna be a hard no for me. it's gonna be a hard no for a lot of reasons.
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing that they are already bowl eligible then, because that's not going to be the way that they want to end the season.
Right.
Well, they have one more game after this, but still, regardless. In fact, I'm going to pull up who that is right now. Oh, they finished with ODU. That's right. They had ODU had the two Georgia states or Georgia schools left. That's right. Penix only has the edge until he loses. Yeah, that's a good point. Daniels is dynamic. It's a great point, Montreal. Isn't it weird though that we base it on that? Like,
right.
I don't know what your thought process is, but to me, the best player in the country or on a specific team, the best player in the country could be on one of the worst teams. That's like Caleb Williams. He may be the best player in the country overall, but he's not on a very good team this year. And so
if you gave him LSU or Washington's team, they'd be undefeated. Washington's undefeated, but LSU'd be undefeated and probably in the playoffs right now if they had Caleb Williams. And that's no shot at Jaden Daniels and what he means to the team. It's just he's a better thrower. He can flip it. I mean, he can do more with the football.
Yeah. It's interesting though, because that's where that conversation for the Heisman comes in. Like, what is it? What kind of an award is it? Because you're not giving it necessarily to the best player every year. You're giving it to a good player on the best team.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think that argument's valid. That's why, like I told the other week when we were taking votes, I was like, Hunter, I'm still voting Caleb Williams as the best player.
Yeah.
He's obviously suffered, I think, 2 losses since I said that. So now it is taken down a little bit more, but I think I still had him third on my list because I'm like, I still think he's one of the best players. But yeah, you do feel like you have to reward the other guys too. Like, you've taken this team to a certain level, so you're also getting rewarded for that. But yeah, it's an interesting dynamic and a talking point when it comes to the Heisman race and all those.
Well, it's no different than how many years were Jordan and LeBron the best players in NBA, right? Literally, probably their entire careers.
Right.
But they're not going to give them MVP every single year.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
So it just is kind of one of those things, but as such is life.
Yeah. So we'll touch on some extra points here maybe, but before we do that, I just wanted to run down a little bit of the standings. Obviously, we know James Madison is essentially useless when it comes to the standings for them, unfortunately. But for the rest of us, we just got to go with what we're given. We have a 2-way tie really at the top of the conference. I mean, technically Coastal's in the lead because they have a 5-2 record versus App State's 4-2. But as far as the losses are concerned, both sitting there at 2 losses only. So they've got the best shot to now represent the conference in the east side, and Troy has taken control of the West. They're only 1 conference loss, and that was to JMU. So they haven't even lost anybody in the West. They might not lose anybody in the West.
I said it may not.
Probably won't. So that one's kind of wrapped up. So that West side is kind of boring there. You got a race for second because there's 3 teams tied with 3 losses with Texas State, South Alabama, and Arkansas State. Which I think, hey, let's be honest, TJ, when we saw that first score of Arkansas State's season, did we think they'd be battling for number 2 in the West?
No, did not.
I did not.
No, not even close.
I did not. But what was it, Butch Jones crying on the sidelines? I was like,
yeah, bro.
This is gonna be a rough year.
Sharon Moore at Michigan, bro.
Oh yeah.
Calm down. Just relax. This is for you, coach. This is for you. Like, wait a minute, man. Like,
was it you that put it out that it was somebody? It may have been you said, calm down, man. The guy didn't die.
Right. Like, what are we doing? And he's, boo-hooing. Like, this is not a tear falling down my eye kind of deal. Like, he's boo-hooing on the sideline. Like, who do you think Khaki Pants is? Like, let's scale it back a notch. We're human beings. And the other thing, too, is like, let's not act like we're just picking on Michigan just to pick on Michigan. Like, no, you did something wrong. Like, we wouldn't be talking about you if you didn't cheat. And again, we get it. And I hate this argument and this notion that, oh, well, everybody does it. Everyone still signs. Sure. In game. Everyone does it. But we're talking about you. You got caught. You know, a lot of people run red lights. They didn't get a lot of people. They got you. Right? Whenever I'm driving in my car and I'm speeding and I get a ticket, there's probably a lot of other people on the highway with me that are also speeding. They didn't get pulled over. I did. So stop crying about the nonsense and pick yourself up by your bootstraps, serve your punishment, and go do whatever it is that you're supposed to do. But this is for you, coach. Look at these guys. Talk to these guys. Bro, nah, we're not doing it. And he looks so just, I mean, it looks so terrible. It was cringy, man. It
was extremely cringy.
It was cringy to watch.
Plus the fact that he was just like cursing left and right. I'm like, dude, calm down. Like, you're like angry. Yeah, you're angry and emotional right now so much. Yeah. And like, it was, like you said, the best description of it is just insanely cringy.
He was like one of those guys who gets caught cheating, but then try to gaslight his girlfriend to making it think it's her fault. I only cheated because you didn't do such and such. Like, yo, calm down. Like this, you got caught because you got caught. Don't be stupid. Like this is insane.
You need to make a meme of that one because that's the most accurate description I think I've heard of that one. Tony's letting us know Michigan is a laughingstock in college football. Unfortunately, I feel like they only kind of are because they haven't really been punished yet, if you ask me. No. Or their coach gets to coach all week, and then he doesn't get to coach the game.
Right.
I mean, come on.
And here's the other thing. With their remaining schedule, him not being there is not a punishment. They were going to win these games anyway.
Right.
So I mean, maybe Ohio State. They haven't played Ohio State yet, so that's going to be one that kind of tells the tape. But even if they lose to Ohio State, because Ohio State's ranked ahead of them, are they going to drop out that far if it's a good game?
Right.
So what are they losing?
Yeah. Well, Artie's got another thing for us, and I know you know some guys that played up in the Canadian Football League. Grey Cup Championship this weekend in Hamilton. A lot of Sunbelt players, 7 on Montreal, and I don't know if he said 7 total is probably what he's saying there. 7 between Montreal Alouettes and Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Texas State has 1 on each. Oh, that's pretty good. Nice. I did not know they had 1 on each.
I didn't know they had any.
So, okay. We can talk about the championship game. Unfortunately, I don't know that much about the CFL. I do appreciate it, sometimes, but some of them.
I watch it. It's quality.
What do you think of this ridiculous onside punt? I think they call it. Have you seen it?
I have seen it. It's actually kind of cool. So I've only ever seen it done once. Okay. And your ball's got to hit the ground before you kick it. And it can go 2 inches essentially, and you can recover.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it looks silly.
No, it's ridiculous. It's insane. I don't think it belongs in football at all. It's the most insane thing I've ever seen in my life. SpongeBob khaki pants.
That's Tony, one of our writers, man. He's a funny dude. And I don't think he likes Harbaugh particularly much.
No, I don't mind Harbaugh. I like Harbaugh as a pro coach, though, not a college coach. Like he was when they first went to Michigan, and forward motion is absolutely difficult to defend. I did a little bit of Canadian tryouts when I did, and they were like, "Yeah, you come out and you can take off." I'm like, "You gonna let me start running first, and they don't get to move at all?" Yeah, this is gonna be easy. This is cake. But I don't not like Jim Harbaugh. I like him more as a pro coach than I do college because of he's not a gimmicky recruiting kind of guy. Like he's not gonna sit in your living room and sell you on why you should come to Michigan. He's there because of the brand, right? You're gonna go to Michigan because Michigan is the brand. He's a much better NFL coach than, and then also too the way he was recruiting people in the beginning of his tenure at Michigan was just. He was spending the night at kids' houses, and that was weird. I think he was anyway. I don't want to put that out there and us get sued for that not being accurate because, there's a lot of stuff going on. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on right now, man. There's some stuff going on about Will Smith that you probably need to know about that they're going to sue people about. I don't want to bring it to light because I don't want Jada coming at my head with us rocking.
She will too. She will.
Yes, she will. And I don't need G.I. Jane knocking on my door. Look, I shouldn't say that.
You are the next to get slapped, TJ.
Yeah, he can try it. He can try. So here's the thing about me. I'm not the best fighter in the world. I'm never going to claim to be. But what I won't let happen is another grown man slap me and walk away. That ain't happening.
Only thing I'll give Chris Rock.
Me that day.
Yeah. Only thing I'll give Chris Rock is was he like, what are you going to say? Just like, whack.
Well, also Will knew who to do that to.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, he ain't slapping Steve Harvey.
No.
He's not slapping Cedric the Entertainer. Like, he's not slapping real, guys that are really about that life. He slapped Chris Rock, and he also did it in front of a bunch of white people who he knew he couldn't act like that in front of. So,
true.
Pump the brakes. Ain't gonna be no slapping. Ain't gonna be no slapping over here, at my house.
I'd like to have seen him try and slap Cat Williams. I know that Cat is very small, but I think Cat would have just lost it.
Well, I don't know. Cat Williams got beat up by a 16-year-old, so.
Well, that's true. But I mean, that's the side thing. But I mean, I still think like he would have been like a cat just going. Yeah.
Oh yeah. He would have. Listen, there's a lot of people that he probably would have slapped, but it wouldn't have ended the way he wanted it to end.
Yeah.
Yeah. Terry Crews would have gave him knuckles.
Yeah, Terry Crews is a teddy bear, though, man. Come on.
He is a sweet guy, but I also think that listen.
You don't look like I
don't care how nice of a guy you are. You can't open hand slap me, bro. Like what? You're not slapping me in public, especially about a joke. When your wife has made you, the joke of all jokes.
Oh God, it's gotten so bad.
Yeah, man. It's like every time you turn the TV on, you see that head. And it's like, here we go. What else is she talking about?
She's got the round table, the red table. What do they call that?
Yeah, red table talk or whatever it is.
Well, I'm like, why are you sharing these things publicly? Some of these things you just don't need to talk about. Like, you can have a show because of who you are, and people will watch whether you talk about what you had for dinner yesterday or not. Like, you don't need to bring in these completely intimate things that should stay within a relationship.
Yeah, and then she tried to lie to us, telling us that they were separated, and then he talking about I'm surprised that he called me his wife. I was shocked that you wasn't shocked. You wasn't shocked at all. You knew he was going to do that because you looked at him and you gave him the nod to go do it.
Oh, yeah.
Don't sit here and sucker us into trying to make us believe that y'all wasn't together when you was together and then you're not together. And then Jada Shakur, go sit down somewhere. I don't want to hear that nonsense.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, Neil's right. Cat's hilarious. He even if he didn't go after him physically, whatever comedy was going to come after that would have been phenomenal. It's Disney level bad.
True story.
Yes, it is. It's a good point. It is. I don't know how we got.
We got derailed. We got way derailed.
We're going to bring the table out. Jada, would you like to come take a seat?
Right. Yeah.
No, that will not be happening on this show.
Absolutely not. I don't want to. No, I'm good. She scares me, man. They got a lot going on.
Yeah, she scared me. She was on that little Gotham show, Batman show thing. Her character there was scary, dude. Like, she didn't have powers, but like just ruthless. She's kind of like a real life version, I guess. But before some of that,
she's a villain, bro. She's a real life villain. Like she is at this point. She's become public enemy number 1, 2, and 3. I don't. I'm over her. Yeah. Yes, he had Margot Robbie. And well, and he should have left her for Margot Robbie, man, to be quite honest. And listen, I'm not a blonde. I don't, blonde hair. That's not my thing, but it's hard to say no to Margot. And she admitted, she came out and admitted that she was crushing on Will after that show. So, and he had Eva Mendes, in my opinion. I thought he could have had Eva Mendes in Huge. So, listen, he's had his fair share, right? And he he set it on dirty tennis ball. So
yeah. So, yeah, I mean, the chemistry that he seems to have with all his co-stars seems to be pretty natural. You know what I mean? Like, guy doesn't seem like he has to try real hard with the ladies.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know why he's stuck. Maybe is the right word, but
just got the hex on him. That's all
yeah.
that is.
Yeah. Oh man, but yeah, I mean, we got everybody laughing, so we've done our part here to keep everybody entertained. Is there any other extra points you want to make as a whole for the college football, Sunbelt specific? Anything else you want to talk about?
No, I do think we need to start giving. We need to start. The slander needs to be a little bit higher for Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. Y'all keep coming at my boy Dak Prescott, and listen, I'm not a Dak Prescott. I'm a Cowboys fan. And I think Dak Prescott is marginal. I don't think he's elite. I think he's serviceable. I think he's a little bit higher on the list than maybe Kirk Cousins. Not very much higher, right?
Okay.
His ceiling is his ceiling. His floor is his floor, and he's about right here. But what we're not going to do is not pretend like this man, Josh Allen, ain't led the league in turnover since he's been here. And the slander needs to start coming his way. So I'll end on that.
Yeah. I'll make one more thing, too. Would you take Josh Dobbs over Dak Prescott right now?
No, hell no.
What?
No, absolutely not.
Man, he might be my favorite NFL player right now. Underrated.
I hear you. He's a shout out to Canyon right now. He's having a great year, but you know, there's a lot to be said for somebody who's doing this once. There's a reason why he was a career backup. So
true.
You know, he's reminds me a lot of Fitzpatrick. He's, you know, having his moment in the sun. Gardner Minshew have their moment in the sun. But prove it to me you can keep doing this. So, no, I'm not taking him over Dak. I'm not taking him over the top 15 quarterbacks right now, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I guess, like, in the long run, that's probably the smart decision.
Right.
And why I don't manage a pro football team.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched football long enough to know who's catching lightning in the bottle and who's not. He's got his Jeremy Lin moment, and that's what it is.
True. Yeah, and Neil saying, as another Cowboy fan, he agrees with you. I might have to jump on some kind of other train because my Panthers just aren't working out for me at all.
In fact, said I wouldn't take him over Tyrod Taylor. I wouldn't either.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't either. I like me some Tyrod Taylor.
I like Tyrod, but he was so tiny that I think I'd take him over Tyrod, but not by a ton. I mean, I love what was the guy that played at Temple who came in with Rule and played quarterback for a little bit for the Panthers?
God.
I can't think of his name.
He played in the
PJ. Was it PJ?
Yeah, PJ. Is it Williams? Not PJ Williams. PJ something.
If only we had Google to look this up.
I know, right? He plays for the Browns now.
Is he with the Browns? PJ Walker. Thank you, my girl. Yep. I'm going to put that up there. PJ Walker. All right, he didn't work out in the NFL. I know that. But when I was watching him, I believe it was the XFL he was in.
Yeah.
Man, he was lighting that league up, and he was fun to watch. And I thought it would translate to the NFL. Now, I'm not saying the same stuff.
He's got a cannon for him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for his stature, it was super impressive.
Yeah.
And he could scramble, too. I mean.
Yeah, he can run. He can do it all.
Yeah. But unfortunately, it didn't work out. Not that the Panthers were going to work out in general because they couldn't protect him, which is, you can't protect Cam Newton. You're not going to be able to protect very many people. So
Bryce Young is feeling the worst of it right now.
Yeah. I'm not sold on Bryce either. I was a CJ
It's hard to be
guy.
sold on somebody that you can't see play because they don't block.
True.
You can't even properly evaluate Bryce Young right now because they've done such a horrible job trying to protect this man.
Yeah.
I mean, you and me could line up at D tackle and at least get a pressure.
Yeah. Well, you could. I don't know if you've seen the size of these arms, but
yeah. Well, these knees ain't kneeing the way they used to knee, so it might not work.
Oh man, yeah. Neil, you're right. No weapons, no line. That's true. Well, the only if your best weapon is former Vikings receiver. A terrible name.
Adam Thielen, yeah.
Thielen, there you go. If your best weapon is Thielen, he's consistent. He's going to be open because he is a good route runner.
Adam Thielen is a possession receiver, and a possession receiver cannot be your best weapon.
Right, yes, there you go. Perfectly said by someone who can say it much better than I can. I mean, we had like Victor Chenault. When he came in, I thought he was going to light it up because I really liked what he had done in Jacksonville, but he probably had a better quarterback and better situation down there. Not necessarily, I don't know, maybe now too, but regardless, anyway.
Right.
Neil says he's 32.
Not old.
No.
For a quarterback, not old.
Yeah. Not old for me and you because.
Yeah, because we're past that.
Yeah.
We're very far past. Well, I am very far past that. You might not be.
No, I'm right with you. I looked at some guy today and I was like, "You're a baby though, aren't you?" And he was like, "No, I'm 30 something." And I was like, "Oh, well, you look younger." So
yeah,
I feel like I'm old enough I can get away with that.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Montreal says that Thielen was a dog before the 2 ACL surgery.
When he was with the the Vikings, he was the guy. Like he was what Cooper Kupp was a couple years back.
Yeah, I was going to say that's true.
Yeah, but as such as the NFL, things change and people change.
Injury and time always wins, right?
That is a fact.
And Neil's not feeling. He's not feeling the feeling. Dad joke. Dad joke. Time to end the episode. Oh man! All right. Yeah, I think that probably does just about wrap it up. Though we'll end on the awful joke there. TJ, where can the people find you and follow you? Yeah,
Mr. Corman 12 on Instagram, at TJ Corman on Facebook, and Thick Thighs and Large Fries on Instagram as well. I'm also on the Tickety Top.
Nice. Yeah, I think the other week you forgot to mention the Thick Thighs and Large Fries, so I'm glad you said that.
I did forget that, but not this week. So
there you go.
Go ahead and get your face full of what's going on in here to eat. So
yeah, absolutely. And you can follow the both of us a little bit with some clips that we'll be taking out of here and throwing up on social media at Sunbelt Syndicate, pretty much everywhere.
Right.
Even some of those ones that have like zero interaction, like Threads. I don't know if you've heard about this thing.
I don't even know what that is. No,
I feel like I'm wasting my time. But hey, we'll have a library of stuff if it ever takes off, I guess.
Yeah, we'll see.
But anyway, everybody, thank you for interacting and participating once again. And we will see you next week.
Have a good one.